Today on Wedding Worthy, we're sharing the modern-day fairy tale of Kara and Sam Reihs, a couple who swiped right on love and never looked back. Their wedding was a breathtaking blend of modern elegance and romance, inspired by Netflix's show Bridgerton, but reimagined for a dreamy fall celebration. Set at a stunning winery with lush gardens, every detail from the vibrant florals to personal musical performances made their day uniquely theirs. Welcome to Wedding Worthy, where we celebrate incredible couples and the love stories that shape their perfect day.
Now we're the Taylors.
We're married.
From heartfelt vows to breathtaking designs, every wedding detail reflects the journey that brought them together.
It was everything I could have ever imagined, and I was so happy with how everything had turned out.
So get ready to swoon as we take you inside the most extraordinary weddings and the love stories that make them wedding worthy. You're watching Wedding Worthy, where we believe every couple has a story.
Hi, I'm Kara Reihs,
I'm Sam Reihs.
and we got married on September 21st, 2024. So Sam and I met on a dating app. We used Bumble.
Yeah.
Technically, I had to send the first message, right? Mm-hmm. And we decided to meet because it was COVID. It was 2020, and lockdowns were still happening. So we were trying to find some place that had outdoor seating, which at the time was a little difficult to do.
Who knew that it would blossom into a marriage? First impressions, I was a little taken aback. We had a great conversation, I think. Mm-hmm. And she ended up coming back to my house and meeting my cat. So
Yeah, that was your sell.
yeah.
So my first impression of Sam, he was the first person that I went on a date with that I felt like was genuinely listening to what I was sharing.
She has a lot to say.
It was really interested.
Good things, yeah.
It was really interested in what I was sharing and asked a lot of questions, which I feel like first dates are oftentimes, I don't know, in my experience have been the opposite, like me asking a lot of questions and trying to get to know the other person. We talked a lot about music.
Yeah.
That was a big one.
I think the second date, I mentioned that I was buying a house, and Kara mentioned that she is good at painting. So naturally, I asked her to come over to my new house, which was quite a fixer-upper, and help me paint. As nice enough as she is, she agreed. So on our third date, she came over to this kind of a sketchy house, a little bit. I needed to paint the whole house, and the whole house had these shag carpets, so I wanted to paint before I ripped up those carpets, just so we can make a bit of a mess. And she cut in almost all of the walls. I was really impressed with her work ethic, and I think maybe you were a little
surprised at how much work we were gonna do. Yeah. I went into it thinking like, oh, I'm just like painting a living room and maybe a bedroom or something, like no big deal. And I got there and it was the entire first floor needed painted.
It's a smaller house, but
it was a smaller house, but I definitely was surprised. And the whole process of me painting, I was texting my best friend Jilly, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I got myself into. Like, I must really like this guy if I am willing to put myself through all of this, especially when it came to ripping out carpets. I'd never done that before, and I was going through like pulling nails out of the all the like carpet tacks and everything.
I was like, hey, while you're here, let's do it.
Yeah, it was interesting to say the least, but definitely worked out, huh?
Yeah.
It was worth it. So the moment I realized that I think this really could go somewhere with Sam, a little backstory. So I decided to apply to some grad schools because I decided, maybe I want to become a therapist and like start a whole new career. And so as I was applying to some of these grad schools and through the process of interviewing, there were a couple that were out of the state of Pennsylvania. And there was one in particular that I applied to that was in Pittsburgh that would have kept me in the area. But the more I spent time with Sam, I found myself not really wanting to go out of state very much anymore, and really hoping that that application in Pittsburgh would work out. And the second I got the acceptance letter, I actually had just pulled out of your driveway. And I whipped my car back around and came running in the door. And I was like, I got in! And you immediately asked me to be your girlfriend.
Yeah, officially, yeah.
That was definitely like the moment for me that I knew I had someone special.
We did a trip to New York before we officially were dating, and we had a really good conversation at a brunch. And I remember seeing kind of a good spark develop there. The proposal story is I was thinking of how I could do it special. Of course, I drove to her mom's house and got permission. But my idea was we had a trip upcoming to Arizona. I was able to get a great ring with her best friend's help. So there's this mountain that we both really enjoy called Camelback Mountain. I knew that I wanted to propose to her on this outlook because the last time I had hiked that mountain, I was by myself. It was early in the morning, and I come up on this early kind of platform on the hike, and the sun was like just rising. And it was kind of like an out-of-body experience. It like hit me at that moment where I was like, I should propose to Kara here. So a few days into our trip, we did do that hike, and I was able to propose to her in that exact spot. So I set up the GoPro like we were taking a picture, and had the ring in my little Camelback water backpack. Set up the GoPro like I was taking a picture, but it was actually a video, and did the whole kneel down and
totally shocked me.
Total surprise. She had no idea.
No idea that it was coming.
Afterwards, we still hiked the whole mountain, and
with the biggest adrenaline rush ever. I think that was the fastest I've ever hiked that trail before. So I am from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania originally, and I am a child and adolescent therapist. Music has always been super important to me, and my family has been really, really supportive of that over the years. And I went to college in Florida State was where I went, go Noles, and studied musical theater there, and eventually lived in New York for a period of time and was traveling all over the country performing in regional theater shows. And absolutely loved it. But when COVID happened, I decided to go back to school. I'd always had a really deep interest in counseling and just wanting to help other people and work with individuals on some of the challenges they're facing in their lives. And so I went back to school, and now I kind of specialize in working with children and adolescents. Yeah, I absolutely love it. Introducing Sam to my family was a little interesting. I kind of kept him a secret for a period of time, mostly because my family has a tendency when someone new comes along to really blow up and make it a very big deal. And because we weren't really sure what was happening with me, staying in Pittsburgh or not, and I kind of wanted to keep him to myself a little bit. So when I finally did decide, okay, let's have him meet the crew, the whole fam, he came over to my sister's house. We had dinner. And he showed up with flowers for my mom, which was great. That's a great tip.
But it was a surprise for your mom.
It was. Yeah. So my sisters knew he was going to be there. Right. I had told them about what was going on with Sam before I officially told my mom. And so my mom was not anticipating him being there, but I think it was a very good introduction. Yeah. My family is very loud and over the top and a little bit dramatic. That's what you get when you've got all girls, right?
Yeah, they're not that bad.
No. But it honestly went so much better than I was anticipating. And he handled it like a pro. I was more worried about him being overwhelmed by everything, but he did a really good job with it.
I'm good with moms. So.
You were a good mom. But the big important meeting, I feel was my best friend Jilly, introducing him to Jilly. Because if you can't get past your best friend, you're not going anywhere, right? And so that also went really well. Yeah. And I feel Maybe she grilled you a little bit at first, but eventually
A little
she chilled
bit,
out.
but yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I am originally from Cleveland, Ohio, which now I'm living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So there's a little bit of butting heads there. Still a Cleveland fan, but I love both cities. And then for work, I am a construction manager. So I do a lot of building hospitals, airports, any kind of construction projects. I kind of just manage. I love it. As a kid, I always grew up playing with Legos and Lincoln Logs, so construction has always has been a part of my life, and I really enjoy it. I was kind of brought up, I feel like I had an all-American kind of childhood. Lots of birthday parties and played lots of sports. So introducing Kara to my family, I don't think I thought of it
You did not think.
didn't think it through. There was this event that we were having it was kind of like, it was my family, but also a big group of extended friends. I was like, oh, they'll all be here. We were meeting by the lake, and we were doing like this soup potluck, and it was just kind of like, yeah. And I was just like, oh yeah, come along. Some of my friends and family will be there. And lo and behold, it was like everyone, and I don't think I clued Kara in quite as much as I should have. So, and it was like a weekend trip. It was pretty intense, but she did great. She's so easy to talk to anyone, so she fit right in, and God bless her, just kind of like camping, kind of meeting everyone for the first time, kind of in a unique environment, but.
I joked that it was like baptism by fire. I got in the car, we were driving up, and he basically said, he was like, oh, just a few friends. And I was like, oh, like who? What are some names so I'm familiar? And then he just kept listing people off, and I was getting more and more anxious because I was like, that is a lot of people. So it was definitely a lot, but so fun. Yeah. Everyone was so welcoming.
So something that made our relationship stronger was we decided to flip an entire house as kind of like a profit builder in order to like jumpstart our relationship and future marriage. I think you actually had the initial idea.
It was totally my idea, and it was very impulsive.
But it worked out because I have a good DIY background. You had some funds available, and also are very good with the details with house stuff. So we kind of knew it was a natural fit for us, but it is, I mean, as just dating and flipping a house, it was a little nerve-wracking. It was a lot of work. It was, 9 months of work. I mean, every day after work, we just went to that house and worked on it, and you were in grad school.
Yeah,
too.
I was in grad school and starting my internship, so I was juggling clients and graduate courses on top of flipping the house too. Yeah. So I mean, every weekend was spent there, every free moment was spent there, and there were definitely moments where the stress was strong. In particular, there was this patch where I was literally patching walls, doing plaster repair work. And it took me like 3 months to get through all of the work in the house. And every day going in, it just like grated. Grated at my patience and my stress. And so there were definitely moments in there where I think we had to work really hard to communicate through some of that stress and anxiety that we were experiencing, because it was hard. Right.
Well, and we have different levels of acceptance when it comes to certain things. So where I maybe want to cut corners, she wants to do it more at a more detailed level, and finding that compromise and being able to work together, I think really made our relationship stronger. Totally. And kind of gave us clued in on some things for the future of how we work together, which ultimately, made our bond stronger. So, all in all, it was a success. I mean, it was a financial success for us. made us stronger as a couple, and it was just a great story.
It is a good story. We went into it saying, like, this is going to make or break us. So, fortunately for us, it definitely helped make us.
Out.
Yeah. Leading up to the wedding, we had quite a few events kind of scheduled. We had an engagement party planned, and then I had 2 bridal showers, one in Pittsburgh, one in Ohio, just to make it easier for the families. And then we each had a bachelorette party. Mm-hmm. But the engagement party, unfortunately, was canceled the morning of, because the night before, Sam had to go to the hospital. We had an evening in the hospital because he had a transient global amnesia episode, which I had never heard of before. But essentially what it means is, like, for a period of, I think it lasted for about 12 hours. Yeah. He had absolutely, like, no short-term memory ability. So he was
kind of just like stuck in a loop.
Yeah, he kept asking the same questions over and over again, as if he was kind of stuck. It started actually when he was at a gig with his band.
Mm-hmm. Drumming,
Yeah, he was drumming, and all of a sudden, one of the bass guitar players came up to me and he was like, "Something going on. Like, Sam's acting a little funny." And so I was a little worried that it was maybe something more serious, like a stroke. And so I had to throw him into the car and rush to the hospital. And I had to literally stop the car because he kept trying to get out of the car, thinking that he had to get back to the gig as I was driving down the highway. So that was a little scary. But fortunately, they did a bunch of tests. The doctors were amazing that were there. Mm-hmm. And the nurses were really comforting to me because he didn't remember much.
Yeah, I still don't remember anything. I remember drumming, just starting to drum and then waking up in the hospital. And when I woke up, I thought I was like roofied or drugged or something. Mm-hmm. And come to find out that, it was just a crazy, rare
one-off
memory loss event. Mm-hmm. I was so lucky that she was there and she was able to help me.
Having the engagement party canceled, especially in the way that it was canceled, made really appreciating every other step towards wedding day just even more special for us. I didn't take for granted like a single second of my bridal showers or bachelorette parties, because it just is so clear, like something can happen so quickly and you just never really know. So to appreciate the moment that you're in. We got married at Sapphire Creek Winery and Gardens in Chagrin Falls, Ohio. And I think the journey trying to pick our venue was interesting because I had a very specific vision. I knew initially I was really inspired by greenhouses. Like, I knew I wanted lots of windows, wanted a lot of nature to be kind of involved in the whole ceremony because I knew I wanted to get married outside. So trying to find a venue in Pittsburgh that matched the aesthetic that I was going for was a little difficult. I think Pittsburgh has a lot of beautiful country clubs and ballrooms and things like that, but just not quite this like modern winery aesthetic that I was looking for. And so I actually ended up finding a friend of mine from high school who got married there, and I was using her pictures as inspo. I was like, oh my gosh, Nicole, my wedding planner, was like, this is exactly the vibe I'm looking for. Is there anything like this? And she's like, no, girl, like, we're going to have to look. We're going to have to expand our search a little bit. And so one night I was just like, you know what, where even is this place? And so I like creeped on some of her pictures and zoomed in on one of her detail cards and found the name of the venue and looked it up and realized like, oh, this is right outside of Cleveland. Like, I don't think that would be a crazy idea, especially since Sam's family's from there, to consider getting married in Cleveland. And so we scheduled a couple tours at a couple different places out there. But as soon as I walked into Sapphire Creek, I mean, I knew immediately that was the spot.
We had like one or two other places lined up to look, but we knew when we went there that it was the right fit.
It was just a gorgeous venue. I loved all the natural light that came through, and everyone we spoke to there was just so friendly and so accommodating, and so it just felt like perfect fit. I have always known I wanted to get married in the fall. That is definitely my favorite season. But I also loved like the opulence and the romantic vibes of like Bridgerton era kind of like florals and decor. And so I was trying to find a way to marry the two, because I think you often see Bridgerton style weddings in the spring or summer, like very bright, like hot pinks and blues and teals and yellows and all this stuff. So I was like, how do we do this in a more muted fall earth toned colored way? And so my wedding planner, Nicole, really helped me kind of flesh out what that was going to look like. The hardest part, I think, was trying to weave in all the different colors. So I used a lot of like mauves and pinks, and we included a lot of greens, like forest greens, olive greens, things like that, but also like mustard yellow and some other colors that you wouldn't have expected. And I think the challenge, and I know my florist definitely felt that way, was how to marry this very modern looking venue with such a vintage style decor. And honestly, I don't think I could have done it without them, because they really helped me kind of figure out exactly what that was going to look like. So when it came to incorporating our personalities into the wedding, I think there were a few things that we did. So first was Sam was adamant about including some of our initial Bumble messages somewhere in the wedding. He was like, I want this included. And initially he wanted them like blown up on a poster board, which
So it's like, people come in, they can read the conversation.
I put my foot down about that. That felt a little too offering up everything on a platter for people. So what we did instead was I created little custom cocktail napkins that just had like little blurbs. So it might have like one or two responses, and I added a little like vintage drawn bumblebee onto them, so people could kind of infer, right? And there were 6 different versions of it. So it became a kind of a fun game for guests to try and figure out, to find all the different versions and like put part of the conversation together, which was fun. Music for both of us is super important.
Huge,
so
yeah.
We found lots of ways to incorporate music that we both loved into the whole ceremony and reception. So hiring a band was really important for us. And we also had a string quartet for the ceremony itself, because I knew I wanted to walk down the aisle to live music. And I offered to put in some Taylor Swift for him, because he's the Swiftie out of the two of us.
Yeah.
What else did we add?
Yeah, I mean, I was very adamant about certain songs and when they need to be played. So, yeah, that goes with my whole planning and music background. I was very intimate with those details, but that's about it. But
another fun thing that I did for Sam and his mom was I actually choreographed their mother-son dance.
Yeah.
They started off with like a slow dance and then busted out into like a fun dance that I helped choreograph, which was fun. I felt like I got to like put in a little bit of my dance background for you guys.
Yeah, and we were good students.
You were very good students.
But then I also incorporated, so, you know, I drum as a hobby. So since we had a live band, and it's a band that we've now become almost kind of friends with locally here. We see them often before and after the wedding. But I drummed with them for a few songs, and so that was awesome, because some of the people, I mean, most of the people at the wedding, you know, are at least on my side, are out of town, so they don't get to see me perform very often. So that was really special to just be able to perform for them. Especially like my grandma and thing, you know, harder for her to come out and to even think about seeing a show. So I know that was a lot special for me and a lot of people, for us to be able to have that connection.
My dress, I guess you'll be so surprised, I had a very specific vision. I knew exactly what I wanted for a dress. I really wanted an off-the-shoulder gown, most likely an A-line. I love like that old Hollywood kind of style and vibe to dresses, but so I wanted like a lot of structure and something that felt really romantic, but I also knew I wanted a dress that like could move. Right? Could move and flow, and I could dance and have a good time in. And so when I went dress shopping, One White Lane in Pittsburgh is where I went, and the owner there was just so incredibly, she was just amazing to work with. And I told her my vision and she was like, I know the dress. And she pulled a couple for me. But as soon as I stepped into my gown was by Stella York. I just knew immediately that was the dress. And we ended up adding like a detachable bow to the back of it that I put on, like instead of my veil for the ceremony, I added the bow for the reception, which was like just a kind of fun, like flirty little touch that I added. But I just loved my dress. I've never felt so beautiful.
The first time that we saw each other in her wedding dress was, we did do a first look before the ceremony, obviously. It was in this kind of nice secluded part of the winery, kind of like this bridge over a small brook. We were able to share a private moment, and that was really nice, just to have a few minutes just to ourselves.
It helped take like some of the nerves out of it, but I know a lot of people say like, oh, is a first look going to ruin your moment of like going down the aisle and seeing them? And I can say with certainty it absolutely did not. I still cried like a baby walking down the aisle and getting
I was still emotional too. Yeah,
getting to see him. So it was definitely worth it in terms of like getting photos done and getting to actually enjoy like our reception and get to that piece of the puzzle during the day. But it also just was nice to have a moment just for the two of us. I would say the biggest challenge about the wedding planning process was just simply trying to really hone in on the design and navigating lots of opinions. So, love my mom, love my sisters, but sometimes they just had a lot of very strong opinions, and I wanted to find ways to make everyone feel comfortable and to feel like everyone was being heard. But there also are definitely moments where you just have to really trust your gut as a bride and say like, no, this is what I want. And I know with certainty that this is the best thing for the two of us, right? So I would say trying to navigate some of those conversations is probably the hardest part. But fortunately, it went really well. And I actually feel like having those hard conversations with my family in particular really helped like strengthen our relationships and helped strengthen our ability to understand one another.
Some of the traditions at this venue was you bury a bottle of bourbon. So what that looks like is about a month before your wedding day, you come to the venue and bring your own bottle of bourbon, which we did. We selected one that had our number on it, which is 14. So we saw it in the store.
It's batch 14.
So it was like perfect. Looked like a good one that we would both enjoy. And we just kind of go there and lower it down in a tube. After the ceremony, we went over with Doug, who is my stepdad, who was also our officiant. Lifted back up out of the tube, and we shared a drink together. And the bourbon was very tasty, but I think it was really nice to have a special moment with him and us, just kind of after the fact. Just kind of celebrate that we did it, and we had great weather, which was kind of the point of the Southern tradition of bury the bourbon, is to have good weather on your day.
It's supposed to ward off rain. Yeah.
So
and it worked.
It worked, and it was a really great memory. I think something of the wedding day that stands out to me, I mean, of course you have all of what Kara and I did, but just being able to share such a great day with everyone that we love and hold close to, and especially seeing my grandma. There's two moments. The one where she actually walked down the aisle, I got really choked up, equally choked up seeing her as I did Kara, just seeing her walk down the aisle. And then there's a great moment captured too of when she first saw Kara in her dress, very surprised. Those kind of stand out. My mom and I pulling off that dance that we choreographed, our first dance, was really special. So those are some of the things that kind of stand out, besides obviously the obvious good things of you and I.
There's a few moments that I think really stand out for me in terms of the day. The first really being like walking down the aisle. There was just something about it that it was one of those like movie moments, right? Where you almost feel like you're watching yourself living out something that I had dreamed about since I was a little girl, right? What that moment was going to be like. And I don't think you can actually put words to describe the joy that I felt in that moment and like the love and excitement that I had of like getting to marry this man.
Yeah.
Right? Some other really big moments that stand out for me were I did something special, a surprise for my mom for our mother-daughter dance. I created a cover version of I Hope You Dance by Leanne Womack, which is my mom's like favorite song of all time. She has dedicated it to us girls, and she danced at both of my sisters' weddings with them to this song. And so I wanted to find a way to make it extra special for her, so I created this cover of myself singing it, an acoustic cover that actually Sam's stepdad Doug also helped do the guitar for. And so my mom had absolutely no idea. So when it started, I just kept waiting for the moment for her to like realize that it was me singing on the recording, because she was begging me for months to sing at the wedding. And I knew I really didn't want to have to be worried about performing on my wedding day. That was something that was really important to me. So this felt like the best of both worlds, like to be able to give her the gift of hearing my voice and me singing at the wedding day, but also taking some of the pressure off of me having to do it live. But also she has this amazing recording that she can now go back to and listen whenever she wants. And she actually texts me all the time, very randomly, like, I'm crying because I'm listening to our song. So that for sure was one of the highlights for me. But I think my favorite moment of the night was actually like leading up to the very last song with all the guests still there. It wasn't even like our final private dance. But one of Sam's friends actually grabbed my hands and she was like, this is it. Like, take this moment in. You have everyone here. Everyone was dancing. And I just had this like,
kind of like look around and like out of body experience almost.
Yeah, like, this realization of like, everything that we had worked towards, all of the planning, all of the hard work, all of like our whole journey kind of all culminated in that one moment. And it was just the coolest thing. I'm not sure how else to describe it other than like, it just, there was just so much
culmination of everything.
Joy. Like, joy is probably the word I would use for the day. I just could not wipe the smile off of my face all day. And that was probably my favorite moment of the night.
It's something that at least I'm excited for.
We're both excited.
We're both excited, but I think I'm a little more excited. I think when we first started dating, we were both kind of 50-50 on having kids. But something as our relationship has grown and throughout the process of getting married, I think, has become more and more something on our minds. So it kind of started as a joke, but now it's a legitimate want of mine is to have a Sam Jr. And that could be a boy or a girl, but it's something that I'm looking forward to because I know that we'll be great parents one day. I know that pregnancy can be scary, but I'll do my best to help her. But it's something that I think is like a no-brainer for us to continue like building our family. So
I would say I'm just excited to like grow and evolve with someone. You know, I think thinking back to the person that I was like at 20 and 25, right, to even just in the 5 years that we've been together, I have changed so much as a person, and now to be able to share and grow and evolve with someone else, right, someone that I know that I love is something that I'm excited about, just to be able to see like what life throws at us and knowing very confidently that I think we really have the skills to tackle anything together.
Well, and some of it too is like just the mundane day-to-day kind of stuff that we've kind of fallen into, and I think it's good, like every once in a while we'll check in and be like, is this, are we still on the right path, or like, is this still good? And even though we might be getting more boring as we get older, it's good to stay. No, we're not boring, but it's good to stay. I think we have some good communication on our growing, moving forward. So I think that's an important key for any relationship is to keep in communication even after the wedding. Yeah. What I love most about Kara is just her spirit, her just never-ending joy and enthusiasm about life. I mean, it makes anyone that she touches, with her life, inspired to do their best. And I love providing for her to hopefully to nurture her even more and more. But she's just such a joy, and I never get tired of her laugh, even though it's
good.
Yeah, it's a lot in this household. Luckily, I think I'm a little funny, so I think we work good in that sense. But even when she's down, sometimes picking her back up and working through things is just something that I know will always be a consistent force in my life and in yours.
The thing I love most about Sam is his drive and his passion for things. Like, he is so unapologetically himself, and when he commits to something, it is like 150% dedicated to it, right? And so I find that to be really inspiring, because I don't know that very many people are that way. And you do it with everything, not just like interests and hobbies, and even training for the marathon like he's doing right now, but even just in your relationships. Like, when you really choose someone, you choose them, and you choose them hard, and it feels really special. And the other thing is, you are really sneaky funny. Oh, yeah. He has a very specific sense of humor that I feel like I get special access to.
Unfiltered.
You're watching Wedding Worthy, where we believe every couple has a story.